Okay, 1 minute. Make cool. Okay, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone, wherever it is that you're dialing in from. Would like to say a very big thank you to you for joining us. And what is most likely going to be our last webinar session with admission officer for the year 2020. Would like to acknowledge the presence of Auntie Lauren, the Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment at the P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State, as well as Festus, a wonderful gentleman that I've had the opportunity to speak to. And trust me, it was perhaps some of the best conversations I had with students, even while I was going through the process myself. So thank you, Festus, for joining us. Thank you, Onta. In the meantime, while we're just trying to hold on for a couple of more people to join us before we kickstart this, I'd like to introduce you to Lane. If perhaps for some reason you do not, again, it would be great if we all could mute ourselves. I'd like to just quickly introduce us to Lane. If for some reason you're not a member yet and you joined by seeing the link somewhere else, Lane is a group of MBA students, alum, and applicants or enthusiasts looking to leverage their MBA experience for a more politically and economically inclusive Africa. We've seen a lot of things happen in the past few weeks that has constantly reminded us that the long-term goal should be finding ways to raise the continent from where it is. And for you being a Nigerian or anyone here being a Kenyan or a Ghanaian, it always starts with the country. So we're trying to remind people and make sure that they understand that everything they get at the end of the day, way beyond financial independence, also comes to the part where they transcend self and begin to find creative ways to get the country and the continent back to where it should be. The other thing we're equally concerned about is we've seen for our members who are currently students at various MBA programs, we've seen that MBA representation of African students could be better. And doing that, we feel that if we are able to get a lot more Africans into MBA programs, it would be a positive addition to the goal of an inclusive continent. So without any further ado, if you would like to join, Franklin will share the link down below and we will start this session right now. So I'm going to start with Festus before I come to Untar. Festus, there's this question I try to put to everyone applying. Between the time when you thought about applying to your MBA program and when you finally traveled for your program, how long was it?
All right, so that should be a straightforward, simple answer. But I'm going to start by saying that you guys are doing great. I'm really impressed with what you have done in the time that this has started. I followed it closely, and I think you guys are really doing great in the sense that also there's a huge need for what you're doing. So you're filling a very important gap. To answer your question, um, so it's a little, it may not be quite typical for me. So I've wanted to do an MBA before I actually came to the school. I thought about doing an MBA pretty much for maybe 10 years before then. For me, it was just a lot of missing information. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how exactly to go about that. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't have, so I had some gaps in the knowledge that I had. But from the time that I actually started to, register for exams and try to write those exams, so I would say maybe 3 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, the reason why we usually ask that question, again, thank you for your response and the background that you gave us. The reason why we usually ask that question is more often than not, we've seen people try to apply and get into business school within a year, and they're often disappointed when they don't get in the first time. And it's usually important to let people know that the first attempt is always, maybe not always the best one, because like something you said, missing information here and there, and staying and continue to understand that it's not a verdict on your own ability and intelligence, but perhaps just one of missing information. We thought that would be great. So thank you for your response. Hunter, um, I'm going to move on to you. And I checked your LinkedIn and I see you have a pretty amazing profile. We could spend the whole day going through all of that. But the one thing I just want to ask you around that is, if there's one thing that is not online or that most people don't know about you, what exactly is it?
Oh, that's a really fun question. Thank you for posing it, Samuel. The one thing that you probably would not find on my LinkedIn that I always think is fun to share is totally unrelated to work, but something that I'm kind of passionate about and really enjoy is I love to do needlepoint, which is very much a grandma kind of thing to do in your free time, sewing, but it's something that I truly enjoy. And even though it's not something that relates directly to my work or anything you'd find on my LinkedIn, it's something I'm passionate about outside of work. Hugely passionate about education and helping people find their way, but needlepoint and sewing is something that I just find fun and a great way to spend your time.
Oh wow, that's amazing. It's not something that you yell every time or on a regular basis. Which brings me to what are you or what's your latest needed project that you're working on?
My latest project that I'm working on is
Yeah.
a pillow for my sister-in-law.
Uh-huh. Wow. Maybe I'll get one soon. But well done. So let's try and move into the amazing Arizona State uh, MBA program. That's the WP Carey MBA program. If I mean, there's a whole lot online, but if there's one thing about the program that you often find that people overlook, but it's great about the program, what would you call that?
So from my side of things in admission and recruitment and helping people throughout the admission process, something that, I think people overlook, and I say this because it's not a question that comes up very often when I'm working with students, is questions about class size and community. I think a lot of times students may tend to focus on academics and rankings and those kinds of things, those sides of the MBA search, really focusing on, well, how do I get to where I'm going? This is my goal. Is your program going to help me get there? Well, sure, academically, absolutely. But let's talk about the other side of things, which is you're going to be spending 2 years in a program. It's going to be really important to understand the kind of community that you want to be a part of. So asking those kinds of questions is really important. And I think with WP Carey, we believe business is personal. Festus can tell you all about that too. But we truly believe that we keep small class sizes. Our students get to know their classmates quite well, as well as their professors. And it is a small, tight-knit community with a really strong alumni network. So that business is personal side of things is something that I always try and highlight for students when they're beginning their research into programs.
And I'm going to direct that same question to Festus. How would you go about that? How would you insert that?
Yeah, I think Hunter gave the perfect answer, but I'm gonna just tell a story to just illustrate. I think you get to read things about business is personal and stuff, and till you're really in the school, you'd probably undersell that, underappreciate that. So there was a time I was back in Lagos and I had an interview at Apple, and I really wanted to, get, some information, some guidance as to what I could expect or what it would be like in the interview. So I was in Lagos. I had a lot of help, of course, from career services and a lot of people in school. But one of the second year students at the time, he was traveling back to India. And I think he was in Dubai, and he scheduled me, he told me, hey, I'm going to be traveling, but I'm going to be available during this time. So it was a time that was, maybe on a layover, I think in Dubai. I'm not so sure of the exact location. And he took, I think, about 2 hours taking me through pretty much everything I could expect. And I got to the interview, it was pretty much exactly the same thing. So I think that side of business is personal, and that extends also to academics, that extends to career services, that extends to, just maybe you just want to hang out with somebody, right? At ASU, people are really interested in you. People are really into your business. You are not going to be alone. You are not going to be in a class with people that you really don't know. You're wondering, hey, did I go to school with this person? Everybody knows everybody, and everybody is interested in everybody.
Thank you very much, Festus, for that response. And Hunter, I just want you to give us a bit of an overview of the WP Carey program. Most of the people in the webinar today are actively recruiting or actively trying to get into a business school. So perhaps that human touch to what they've read online could also help as well.
Sure, and I do have a PowerPoint that I'm happy to share. If I don't know if this is the appropriate time to do so, to talk a little bit more about the program. Okay, fabulous. Let me pull that up really quick. All right, can everyone see that? Are we in presentation mode? Perfect. Okay, awesome. So just maybe to start a little bit about me. I am Associate Director of Graduate Student Recruitment here at WP Carey. I've been with WP Carey for almost 3 years now. I am a native Arizonan, so I'm very passionate about our state and where we're located. I think it's the best state in the US personally. And I have lived across the US as well as internationally. So I did make the decision to move back to Arizona because of quality of life. And that's one of the things I'm always excited to chat with students about, is just the awesome experience you have within the state of Arizona, not just the school itself. And Festus, I know you briefly said hello, but would you mind giving us a little more info about your background, who you are and where you came from?
All right, so my name is Festus. I'm originally from Kogi State, for most of you who are from Nigeria, but I live in Lagos. So I've been at ASU now for over a year. Last summer, I interned at Amazon, and next summer, I'm going to be returning for full-time.
Thanks, Festus. So a little bit about WP Carey and Arizona and where we're located. As I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Arizona. I am from here. And personally, I think it's just a great place to be. We have great weather, great quality of life, low cost of living. So kind of the best of all of that. And, ASU is located in Phoenix, Arizona, which is the capital and is also the 5th largest city in the country. So may not have as much name recognition as Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, but we are the 5th largest city in the country. So there's lots of great opportunities here that can sometimes be overlooked just because we're not as famous as Los Angeles and Hollywood with all its movie stars, but we are close by. And some of the great things about living here, we have snow 2 hours to the north, as well as the Grand Canyon. So you can go skiing over the weekend if you want. We're located in the deserts and in the mountains, so tons of awesome hiking. And if you do like to go to the beach, we have California right next to us, as well as Mexico a few hours to the south of us. So location-wise, geographically, good place to be. In terms of industry, we are a large tech hub. Some people refer to us as the Silicon Desert here in Phoenix. So we are a growing tech hub and startup hub. A lot of companies creating new offices here in the Phoenix area, or even moving their headquarters here. So lots of movement in that space. And in terms of living here, Festus, what has your experience been in Arizona? What's been your favorite part, or what surprised you the most when coming to ASU and Phoenix?
So when I came in, I guess the first shock for me was how hot it was, right? I've lived in the north in Nigeria, and it's similar type of weather. I wasn't expecting it to be that hot. But apart from that, it's just, I think it's the people. The people here are just really warm. Everybody's friendly. They are happy to say hi, say hello, be really polite and all. For me also, the school has been really good. Like Hunter mentioned, there are a lot of hiking destinations. There are places you can do weekend getaways. There are awesome restaurants, Mexican restaurants, Chinese restaurants, African restaurants that you can visit here. Apart from that, it's also a really beautiful place. When you look at some of the pictures of the school that I'm looking at from this slide, it's even more beautiful in person.
Thanks, Festus. Yeah, you can see some of these pictures. Some of these are actually WP Carey. So that this would be where you'd be taking classes. Right here's another view of the building that's in my background behind me, as well as up here.
Sue me. I'm tired. Let me just send it to her. Whatever she can do.
All right, and a little bit more about WP Carey. So we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes, a little bit more about our business school and the MBA program in general. So we've already talked a little bit about weather here, but additionally, Phoenix being the 5th largest city, we're actually a younger city. So I think the average age is like 35 around there. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of industry to take advantage of, a lot of fun stuff on the weekends to take advantage of, and a lot of individuals, especially in the entrepreneurship and startup space, that are really excited to be involved and network and continue to grow our city and make a mark here. Within WP Carey, we are part of Arizona State University. So if you're familiar with Arizona State at all, we are the largest public school in the entire country. So we are a very, very large school, but within the business school itself at the graduate level, we're actually quite small, as we've kind of referred to already. We have small class sizes. You really get to know your classmates well. Our largest classroom in normal times holds 60 students. Of course, we don't have all 60 students in the classroom physically right now, but that's what you can expect. Those small class sizes, more intimate spaces to really get to take advantage of those discussions in the classroom with your professors and with your classmates. We're a top school for recruiters. Of course, having that name recognition, Arizona State University, as well as WP Carey being ranked in the top 35 in the country. We draw a lot of recruiters to campus that are excited to meet our students. They've had great experience with our students in the past and tend to return. And I've alluded a little to startups and entrepreneurship already, but that's a huge part of the ecosystem here at ASU and within Phoenix as well. So we have a Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. We're ranked #1 for innovation in the country. So that kind of exciting entrepreneurial mindset is something that you'll find at WP Carey a lot among our students. Some of our students, create their own ventures after they graduate as well. One of our most recent ones, Festus, I don't know if you knew Denise Napolitano well, but they started a coffee roasting company that's really looking to make a social impact within the Phoenix community, not just sell their amazing coffee, which is delicious. So they're partnering with a lot of different nonprofits. So really taking that to heart is something our students do. And being part of ASU and a large public school, you have tons of resources at ASU. Of course, you'll get a lot of one-on-one time within WP Carey with your career coach and with your professors. But as part of ASU, there's just a lot of resources that you could take advantage of. Being the largest public school in the country, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of student organizations. So Festus, I don't know have you in your time at ASU or ASU in general?
Yeah, I think speaking of the program, one of the things that drew me to the school was the Executive Connection program. So the Executive Connection for ASU is such that you'd have business leaders, maybe people who have been vice presidents, senior vice presidents, directors at different large big name organizations, and they would come to the school to sort of give some mentorship. So once you join ASU, you are connected to a mentor. and you are encouraged to develop this relationship, to sort of leverage it to gain insight and guidance as to what your career should be. For me, I was very lucky. I guess maybe because it was something that I was really looking forward to. So I developed a good connection with my mentor. She's given me a lot of guidance. During my internship, I had the breakdown, and I quickly called her and things, and we had this really good chat. We had a really good connection. She's been amazing for me. Apart from that, it's just as Hunter mentioned, it's just amazing when you see your classmates or people that you know very well do amazing things in the community, not just for profit, but also to make a lasting impact. I think um, it's some of the things that really amazing about ASU. Um, Also, I know Hunter has also mentioned it. The school has a lot of resources. It's amazing. Your ability to leverage that, to take advantage of that, um, really goes a long way. So I don't know if I answered your question properly or I went overboard.
No, sure. That's great. Thank you, Festus. I'm glad you brought up executive connections. Obviously, it's been a huge part of your experience at WP Carey, but it's part of everyone in the full-time MBA's experience, right? Every single full-time MBA student is matched with an executive mentor. We're really lucky, again, to be located in Phoenix with the amount of companies that are located here that have leaders that want to give back to future business leaders. As well as individuals who have retired to Phoenix and were previously leaders of companies, or they have their second homes here in Phoenix because they love to golf or enjoy the warm weather. So executive connections is a really powerful part of the program. And, I think another thing that kind of jumped to the top of my head as you were talking about executive connections, Festus, is the Intellectual Fusion Learning Lab that all of our students do. And it's a class that you take in your second year, and it's kind of like a consulting project. And one of the really cool things about it is you're working with other graduate students from outside of WP Carey. So you're working with, possibly students from our education school or students from engineering on an actual project that you're going to present to the stakeholders at the end of that class. Festus, are you currently enrolled in that class right now? What are you guys working on?
No, so I think my class starts next quarter. But just to add a little bit of context, so you would see, really cool projects. I think some group last year developed these recycling cans, something like that. And it was really, really cool. So it's not going to be something that is abstract. It's going to be something that that is going to have a lot of impact. It could be, working with people in prison or something, but something that is going to be going to have a lot of impact, like I mentioned, and also going to give you a lot of experience. So you're going to be working with people from engineering, people from different schools, and you're going to learn how to manage just relationships, trying to get your projects delivered, which is pretty much what you could expect in your career. You'd have to do a lot of that. So at ASU, you get to start that and have that experience, and you have the benefit of being in an environment where you can get a lot of guidance.
So thank you for speaking a little bit about that. I'm excited to hear what your project's going to be next quarter. I know in the past, some other projects students have done are things like working with the city of Tempe, which is where our main ASU campus is located, to help them become carbon neutral by 2025. So yeah, looking to really make an impact with those projects. And I guess the next point I'd love to chat a little bit about is rankings. Of course, I talked about culture being a huge part of your decision in choosing MBA programs, or which program you'd like to choose if you've been admitted to multiple. But rankings is another thing that is important to highlight, right? The quality of your education is important. So just throwing a few of these up here on the screen for you to read through. We are ranked #1 for innovation for the 6th year in a row. So something we're definitely excited about here at ASU. And then additionally, within the business school, we're a top recruiter school. We're a place where a lot of recruiters want to come and see our students. And then lastly, that return on investment is also important, right? You're investing time, you're investing monetary funds. So an MBA is extremely important, that return on investment is. So definitely something I wanted to touch on. And Festus, is there anything else you want to add regarding the program and your experience?
Yeah, I wanted to touch just a little bit on some of the numbers that you say. So when you see #1 in innovation and all that, it's at ASU, it's not abstract. So you actually get to see those things, those innovations people come up with, simple solutions to big problems every day. And you get to see that, and it's just amazing. For recruiter preference, I've seen in my time here that, and also from interacting with some other Nigerians that are in some other schools, I've seen that we have a lot of advantage when it comes to like recruiters coming to school. When I came here, my first month, about my first month, I met over 50 companies, and these companies include Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, that are coming to schools. So I think the best of the best, the people that you really want to see, everybody comes to school.
Thanks, Festus. And Samuel, I know one of the things we definitely wanted to talk about today is that optional essay. So I'll hand it over to you if you want to guide us onto the next portion of today's presentation.
First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. There's something I wanted us to double click on around the recruiter experience, but Festus had already talked about that, because one of the major concerns for applicants is always, how can this call help me get the kind of job that I'd like to get? And for Africans or for Nigerians, there's certain companies that we're quite well used to. I was hoping that Festus could give examples of some of those companies. I mean, first of all, congratulations to you, Festus. You'll be joining Amazon a couple of months down the line. So if you could just give us a feel of how exactly the Arizona State, that's the WP Carey experience, helps MBA candidates get the kind of jobs that they're looking for, just to help those who are looking to apply to understand what WP Carey has to offer.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep through a little bit of my story. So if it gets boring, just let me know that it's a little boring, so I could just shut up. So when I came in, I was, I've had more than 10 years experience working in a bank in Nigeria, and I was just done with banking, right? Like, I just didn't want to do anything that was finance related. I wanted to do something else. So I went to career services, and again, career services is a big part of, getting your career up to speed and all. And the career services here, it's really excellent. Another advantage that you have is because of your size, you really have more opportunities for real coaching. Yeah. So I went to career services and I told them, hey, well, I'm trying to change jobs, so I'm looking for something else. I just know what I don't want. I'm not sure what I want exactly, but I know what I don't want. And the career coach was asking me, okay, so you don't want finance and you don't want banking. So do you not want a finance company, or you don't want a finance role? And that question really shifts everything for me, because with the finance, it's something that I understand a lot. It's something that I'm pretty competent with. However, I don't want like finance company. So a finance role in a tech company, which is eventually what I did, would be, a very good option for me. And having those conversations helped me realize what my advantages were, things that I could leverage, things that I could do differently from other people. So I had I went for a conference and I had this chat with some folks at Apple, and they told me that if I take your resume and I compare it with the type of role that I was looking for at the time, that you don't rank in the top 10. So I realized that I didn't have competitive advantage in this. But they said, if I take your resume and I rank it with some people that are in my finance function, you would rank in the top 1%. So I immediately realized that the type of roles that I should be looking for, which confirms what Career Services told me, would be finance roles in like maybe tech companies. And I really wanted to do, I really wanted a tech company. I really wanted a big tech company. So with recruitment, with how do I craft my resume, how do I craft my narrative, how do I write cover letters, how do I network, all of that, those coaching Career Services provided. So we have classes that essentially walk you through all of those things. And with the school, they really do really great bringing recruiters to school. Once recruiters come to school, the school is not just going to throw you at recruiters, right? You are going to have sessions on how to network, how do you show presence, how do you have that 1 minute elevator pitch, how do you keep attention, what sort of questions should you ask, those type of things, right? So the school does a lot of work and really excellent job trying to cover you in those areas. When it then came to specifics, so there were a lot of companies that came to school, and like I said, that I was not interested in. And I was in a position to say, hey, I do not want to recruit with this company, simply because it just wasn't something. It just wasn't something that. Are you able to mute everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just wasn't something that I was interested in. For me, I had opportunities I had an opportunity with Apple, I had an opportunity with Amazon, I had opportunity with some of the big tech companies that I was really interested in. So for the roles and the types of companies that I wanted, I got opportunities with these companies. But more importantly, I had all the help that I needed. So during recruitment for some of those companies, I was in Lagos, and you'd have people. In fact, I had somebody helped me check like my background. So she called in to say, "Hey, your interview is in 5 minutes or in 10 minutes, and I just want to see what your background is like, because when you're meeting with a recruiter, such that nothing is off, right?" And that's the level of detail, that's the level of attention, and that's the level of help that you get. For one of my interviews, it was in person, so they actually flew us out to the company headquarters. It was a beautiful place, probably the most beautiful structure that I've seen in my life, right? And I've gotten a lot of information about what I could expect in that setting. But I then started to have some doubts as to how that conversation is actually going to go, right? I booked appointment with Career Services, and it was really funny in the sense that I was in the office and we were what do you call it? We were sort of practicing it, trying to mimic what the situation would be. How do I get up? How should my grip be? Should it be really firm? Should it be not so firm? Do I have to shake? Do I say hello? How, those kind of things. It was really, for me, that's the level of detail and the level of attention that you get from Career Services and some of the resources that we have for helping you get your job. So essentially, to recap, you are going to get a lot of opportunities, access to companies. You're not just going to get that. You are also going to get, a lot of the help that you really need. You are going to get time with Career Services. You are going to have mentors that will be willing to help you. Your lecturers, they are willing to help you. So you'd have lecturers open up their network to you to sort of connect you. You'd have mentors open up their network to you. You have career services helping you in terms of how do you network, how do you get this prospect, and to really get the jobs that you want, not just what is available. So you may get to, I mean, I was in a position where I could say maybe to the biggest company, or maybe, okay, so where I could say to a top 5 biggest company in the world that I don't want to work at this company because I just felt, if I have a better option in terms of culture match. So this did not come down to maybe career progress or career chances or the prestige of the company. It came down to culture match, where I felt this was another option that I had was a better culture match for me.
Right, right. Also, a very big thank you to you, Festus, for that breakdown. And before we go into all the questions relating to the MBA experience, I'd like for us to just zoom in into the topic for the day, which is additional essay. And this question is directed to you, Onta. Why do schools ask for the optional or additional essays?
It's a great question. And I think it's definitely one that is unclear for a lot of applicants is, well, there's this optional space. What do I do? Do I write something? Do I not? And, the biggest thing is this optional essay is a space for you as an applicant to provide any additional information that you think the admissions committee needs to know about you. So, it's a place where you might be able to differentiate yourself in some ways. It's a place where you might be able to, talk a little bit about something that stands out on your resume, like a gap in your resume, or maybe something regarding your undergraduate performance as well. So it's also a place to be able to provide context. Most schools now have some pretty specific required essay questions rather than approaching it as a personal statement. It depends on the school though, but for the most part, most of the schools that I'm familiar with do provide this optional essay space. And, it is a place for you to highlight, again, what you think the committee wants to know. Maybe it's a project you've worked on that because those essay questions were so specific, you weren't able to highlight this thing that you really wanted to highlight. Well, you have an optional space to talk about it now. Again, maybe it's a project you worked on, maybe it's a volunteer experience that you've had that is integral to the reason you're also pursuing an MBA. So write that stuff there. If you happen to be in a space where maybe you didn't perform as well in undergrad as you wish you had, maybe it was 10 years ago, you can't change the past and that's totally okay. But your optional essay in that case may be a place for you to, again, provide context. Maybe you were in a major that wasn't the right major for you. You were studying something you didn't like, and then you found a new major and you switched your 3rd year of college and everything else got better. You can talk about that, right? Or maybe there was something else happening in your life that you had to take care of. Maybe it was something personal within your family that affected your schoolwork. You can share that there. You don't have to share what it is, but feel free to provide that context and say, I recognize that I did not perform well during my, sophomore and junior year of college. I did have something else going on in my family life that affected that. So provide that context, tell us why. But on the flip side of that coin, tell us how you plan to perform better at the graduate level. What are you going to do different now that you're in this MBA program that's going to make you a better student and help you succeed academically? Because it is an academic program. So again, it's okay to talk about it, but how are you going to move forward and how are you going to excel now that you're starting an MBA program? So that's a little bit about some of those extenuating circumstances, or possibly you have a gap in your resume. If you don't address it, admissions committees can get creative, right? We're a creative bunch, so we can kind of think what we want. But if you provide that context in the optional essay and say, you know what, I took a year or 2 off and I took advantage of that time to pursue a passion project, or I took a year off to travel the world because I wanted a new experience before moving on in my career, that's okay. Just tell us so that we know. and that we're aware of what's happening, because we're all humans. We all have families and different things going on in our lives. We just need to know, maybe there's a reason that you took a year off, or maybe there's a reason you didn't perform as well in some of your undergraduate schooling. So that's a big way to use that optional essay, providing that context, or again, talking about some awesome projects you've done or awesome experiences that you've had that you really want the admissions committee to know about, because it's going to be a big part of your MBA journey. All right, Sam, are there any other questions related to that I can help shed some light on?
Yes. There's one question here. You've talked about some of the things that are expected in additional or optional essay. What are some things that shouldn't go into the essay?
It's a good question. So things that shouldn't go into your essay, if it's something that has nothing to do with your MBA application or nothing to do with the reasons you're planning to do an MBA, and you're just writing to write and fill the space, maybe think a little more critically about that. It should be information that is applicable and important to know as it relates to your admission to a program. Again, so some of those other parts of your application that you might want to share more information about, put that in that optional essay question. But if you just want to tell a story about a trip you had, but it has nothing to do with the reason you're pursuing an MBA, think a little bit more about that and maybe don't include that kind of information in there. It should be appropriate to, or it should be related to your application in some way, shape, or form. It shouldn't just be additional information just to put additional information in.
All right, so we're moving towards the question and answer session. And if you do have any question relating to the topic or pertaining to the WP Carey experience, please feel free to ask that question. I've got one sent to me privately here, and I think it's directed to Hunter and Festus. The question is, Festus mentioned eat. How do you cope?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a really great question, and I guess I should have addressed it. So here, the heat is so it gets hot, I think, from May so to maybe sometimes in August, right? So it's not like it's all the time, right? So you know that it's going to be this period. The good thing is that there are shades, there are places you can easily go into and just, be out of the sun. It's, they're all over the place. Also is hydration. Hydration at ASU or at Arizona, you have to hydrate all the time, and they're usually, I think they're called water fountains, right, Hunter? Yep. Yeah, there are water fountains all over the place, right? You just go get your bottle, fill the water in. So there are water fountains all over the place.
Right. But apparently there's so many things to mitigate for that, or to make up for that experience. For me personally, as a Nigerian, I can understand the beauty of having that nearly 200 and something days of sunshine, as against all of that. So yeah, the floor is open right now, and I think the first question jumping out in the chat box is, how can we get application fee waiver, please? Seems like someone wants to apply tonight.
That's very exciting. So this is something that Sam had reached out and chatted with us about. For those of you who are currently in attendance for this session, if you're ready to apply by that round 2 deadline and you have all your test scores and you're ready to go, shoot me an email here at wpcareymasters@asu.edu, and we can work with you on providing an application fee waiver based on your attendance here.
Thank you very much, Hunter, and to the whole team behind all this. We'll share the attendance list with you shortly. So please feel free to fill that and make sure your name is included. Now, do we have any other question from anyone, whether through the chat box or you'd like to ask in person? Please feel free to do so.
Festus, while we wait for any other questions that come through, is there one piece of advice that you have for individuals as they go through the application process? I know your process took about 3 years to get to where you are, but is there one piece of information that you think everyone should know?
Yeah, so I would say in your application process, be biased for action. Be biased towards taking an action, towards reaching out, getting the appropriate information, not just relying on secondhand information. So reach out to current students, reach out to alums to get some information as to help you to inform your your school search or your application generally.
Right. So thank you, Festus. The questions are beginning to pour in here. The first one is from CEO. He or she is saying, can you talk a bit more about the online MBA program?
Sure. Yeah, we do have an online MBA program. It is a top-ranked online program, and we're actually one of the first schools in the country to launch an online MBA program. As the name states, it's 100% online. It's a 2-year program, so similar length to our other MBA programs. And it's asynchronous, so you can kind of log in whenever is convenient for you, especially if you're in different time zones from Phoenix. And despite it being an asynchronous online model, there's still lots of group work, and you'll get to know your classmates and work with them on different projects throughout the program. So it's not an insular program. You still get lots of connections with classmates and your professors throughout.
Right. So the other question here is schools from OB. Schools talk about fit. As a candidate, how do you evaluate fit when researching schools?
Sure. So from my side of things, I would say make sure you connect with an admissions officer. Make sure you connect with current students or alumni. That's going to be a great way to kind of understand a little bit more about the culture of a school or through those conversations. But I think Festus, you would probably be a great person to answer this. How did you assess fit when you were looking at programs?
Yeah, so I had a really interesting experience. So before I applied, like I mentioned, it took about 3 years from the time I got really serious about it. I knew pretty much all the requirements to the time I actually came in. So I spoke to a lot of schools. So when I started out, ASU was not on my radar at all. So I spoke to these schools, and I try to connect with the admissions officer and try to really assess my fit with the school, because again, I've had a lot of experience. I needed something that was I needed pretty much a platform which I'm gonna get a lot of help. I knew that I was gonna need a lot of help to really achieve some of the things that I wanted to achieve. So one of the questions that I keep asking is, how do you assess a Nigerian? So I'm a Nigerian. I try to get the information that is particularly related to my situation. And from some of the answers that they provide, I feel in most cases, I feel like I need to fit into that culture, into their system. It was pretty much a situation, a case where you're thinking that you'd have to adjust yourself to fit into some of the things that they wanted. And I felt that this may not be appropriate for me. I got to know about ASU. I reached out to an admission officer. I asked him exactly the same question. And he said to me, just come as you are. We are ready to work with you we have the resources, pretty much we have the bandwidth to adjust to you. So one of the things that he also mentioned is that we know that as graduate students, you would change your mind. So we expect you to change your mind. So when you come, you say, hey, I'm really interested in this area of emphasis. However, along the line, just like in my story that I mentioned, along the line, you realize, hey, this may not be, it may not be the same the way I envisioned it. I may find something that is better. The school has the bandwidth to sort of adjust to you and support you, whatever your decision is. So for me, that was the way I adjust the fees. So it was so much so for me that I applied to ASU and I was done.
Thanks, Festus.
Awesome. There's a question here for you, Hunter. Where you have a story that is important to your MBA journey, and you would also like the admission team to note your additional essay, but you also want to explain a low undergraduate GPA. Do you have to decide on what to write, or is it possible to put the two stories together?
I think that might be something that could possibly depend on the school, to be honest, if you're referring to that optional essay question. I know for us as an example, if you have two things that you want to make sure that you share that you weren't able to address in the two other required essay questions, use that optional space. It's okay if you have two unrelated items, totally fine. Maybe just make sure they're different paragraphs when you address them.
Right, thank you very much. And I think the other two questions about concentration and tracks, which you've answered in the chat box, so thank you. I think this question is from FA, directed to Festus. Do you ever feel overwhelmed with classes or the new environment? What do you do when that, or if that happens? What resources are available to you? So
a simple, straightforward answer is yes. It's a graduate level program. It is challenging. Academically, it is challenging. It's not a run-of-the-mill program. So I'm gonna give you an example. So for example, I am a CFA charter holder. I got my CFA before I came to school, right? So theoretically, I'm supposed to know a lot about finance, right? I came into the school, and in my first finance class, I still learned a lot of things that were completely new to me. So it's not a run-of-the-mill program. It's going to require a lot from you in terms of the academic rigor. However, for me, it was a little bit more challenging, and I'm mentioning this because I think it might be helpful. So I have my family, my wife and kids back in Nigeria, and I really just don't do very well away from my wife. It was really challenging for me. However, just like everything else, the school has a lot of facilities. You know, there are doctors that you could counselors that you could talk to, and I took advantage of some of those things to just try to get my mind off things. Also, my mentor, like I mentioned, was really helpful for me, and it was also really helpful in the sense that the type of program that we run at it, that's ASU runs, in the sense that everybody is interested in what you're doing. Everybody wants to make sure that you are fine. Do you need anything? People will invite you out to hiking trips. They will invite you out for, coffee chats or to a restaurant and things like that. So that really helped me in the sense that I did not feel alone. I had a lot of support. We have a large enough Nigerian community here, and that was really helpful.
Thank you very much, Festus, and thank you, Hunter, for your time today. We will just hold on. If someone else has any question to ask, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, there's a question about how the school ranks in terms of getting people into product management.
Sure. So regarding product management, just I'll let you take over in a minute, Festus, too, but we do have a product management club that some of our students launched. Wait, what was it, a year or two ago, Festus?
Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah, last year. And it was, we had a void there. We needed something. Our students said we need something really specific to product management that we can focus on. So they created a club, and it's an interdisciplinary club. So there's also students from engineering in it. And that was totally student driven. And that's, again, a big part of our culture and our community is how can you as a student also make our program better for current and future students. So that was a void that they filled with a product management club, because it's something that a lot of our students are really, really interested in and interested in moving into that space. So that's been a highly successful club and a very popular one from my understanding so far.
Also, the location that we're in, there's a lot of there are a lot of companies who are moving here. ASU is top for innovation, and you get a lot of opportunities to sort of try things out with companies that may be starting out here in Phoenix. However, another advantage is the fact that California is just about an hour away. Right. So if you need to go out to California, somebody in California does not really have a huge advantage over you. So it's like if you're trying to get into investment banking, being in New York may be an advantage, or being around New York may be an advantage. So if you're trying to get into product management, being at ASU may be an advantage in the sense that you have a lot of access to big tech companies. And there are a lot of alums also in those roles who you may be able to speak with or have a coffee chat with, who would be able to give you some sort of guidance.
Right. Thank you very much. Any other question before we draw a curtain on this wonderful webinar? Don't be shy. Feel free to unmute yourself, so that when you reach out to Hunter, you can say, oh, I'm that lady that spoke up the other time. Okay, I'll just wait for 10 more seconds before we draw a curtain on this. I think Festus has already talked a lot about career outcomes. Festus, is there any other thing left? Yeah, I think, yeah, you already talked about career outcomes.
I covered it.
Yeah. Yes, there's one question on the impact of COVID on in-person learning.
So
yeah,
I'll
so
take
Festus,
this.
Do you want to talk about your experience so far?
Yeah, I'll take this. And I think from what I said earlier in terms of when you hear that ASU is #1 for innovation, you really see that when you go out into the school, you really see that. So one of the areas in which we have seen that is in times of COVID. So as this has happened, you hear about a lot of schools where it's really like it's a disaster, right? They start classes and there's a lot of cases and things like that. At ASU, there's been massive ramp up in terms of testing. So there are testing facilities all over. So to give you an example, the building right after the BP Carey and the building before the BP Carey are testing centers. So that sort of gives you an idea into some of the things that they do. And you pretty much just have to work there, make an appointment, or if you don't have an appointment, just walk in, have your ID, and in maybe 3 minutes, you are done, right? Our classes are still in person and online. So just to give you some sort of flexibility there. So if you prefer the in-person classes, definitely go to school. If you want to do something online, definitely join in online. So it's just giving, I think COVID generally has just given additional options for people. You really don't have to be in person. If you want to be in person, that's still all well and good. And if you're worried that maybe you need testing or something, the resources are available.
Yeah, we're running a hybrid model for our courses right now. So as Festus kind of spoke about, you have the option to be in the classroom or attend virtually, depending on your current circumstances.
All right, that's awesome. And I think in that note, we can say about a wonderful session. There are questions around Onto's email and Festa's email.
Yeah.
Hi, Hunter. Hi, Festus. I have a question, a quick one. Sorry, I'm just coming in a bit late. Okay, thanks for your time. I just wanted to find out, okay, so I understand how it's important to establish a personal connection in your essay series, basically to explain why you want an MBA. But I'm wondering if it's also possible for a person to maybe overshare, maybe if you've ever seen that happen, and how, a person can know when the information is coming too much or too personal. Is it possible for a person to basically overshare on this essay? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I don't know that I've ever come across anything that's necessarily been an overshare. I think it comes down to your comfort level and what you would like to share and what you think is, and again, going back to like what is appropriate to speak about in this optional essay. So I've actually never run into an overshare that I can think off the top of my head, but really again going back and thinking critically is this information necessary to understand, this part of my undergrad? Is this information necessary to understand this gap in my resume? Or is this information necessary to provide more depth about why I'm pursuing an MBA program? And if you at any point question that, I would say you probably might want to edit yourself and take some of that information out. Another great thing is to always make sure you have one, if not two other people read your essays. Always get other sets of eyes on them, because that might be the point where they say, I read this and these 2 lines, I think it's just extra information that doesn't add anything to your essay. So really use your support system, your peers, your colleagues that you trust to read your essay and know they're going to give you some really good advice, and see what they have to say when it comes to that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you made, Hunter, about having other people look at your essay. I think that is definitely helpful. I think it's evident for pretty much a lot of people when you reach out to maybe alums or current students, they understand what you're trying to achieve. Like, you're definitely making some investments in your future. And for them, maybe 30 minutes just to read through your essay and provide you some feedback would be a worthwhile investment. So I'd say definitely reach out.
Awesome. We've been speaking to Lauren and Festus Olatune of the Arizona State University. That's the WP Carey School of Business. And once a very big thank you to you guys for joining us today. There's also the 30 minutes after session that we like to hold with the students in attendance. Festus, if you've got some couple of minutes left for us to have that with you, that would be great. But I'm sure that Hunter must have a lot of other things to do. And we want to say a very big thank you to you for your time today. So on that note, thank you. And that brings us to the end